It's another episode of Spencer Uncensored. This is episode number 90. Yeah, we're approaching in 10 weeks, which that'll line up pretty nicely this year. But in 10 weeks from now, we will be doing episode 100. I don't know. I don't have anything planned for the 100th episode, but this is episode 90, and today is October the 1st of 2024. When we hear this in reverse, or hear this in not reverse, but what am I talking about here? Like behind us, like it's when you're watching the recording of it. It's October the 1st of 2024. The reason why that's particularly important or of note is because October the 1st for me is for short of a better word, I've always celebrated life, celebrated purpose. It's a day that I choose to take a moment and reflect and remember why I do what I do and what I am doing. So today, I'm going to share a little bit about that and why that's important. I'm going to tell you that story because not everybody's heard that story. Now, if you've gotten a copy of the book, if you've gotten a copy of Momentum and Mastery, then you've probably read that story. It's the very beginning. As a matter of fact, it literally starts off where it says moment of activation on page 8. It says, I woke up in the back of an ambulance. That little portion right there was on October the 1st of 2001. So I'm gonna circle back around to that in a minute. But before I get into that, I am ecstatic because I have essentially lined out the granddaddy of all programs that I've always dreamed of doing. I've actually had a lot of this kind of in my pocket for, I'd say, over probably about 5 years. And then I did my little stint there, doing the RV stuff and moving, and then I been working with United Home Group and got started doing all the coaching with them, and I'm reviving and I'm now revising what is basically going to be a 13-month program that's designed really to help business owners have the focus they need to have, the accountability necessary to grow their business, the consistency that's required to build a bigger and better business, and also growth. A lot of personal growth happens in this stuff because we all know that businesses don't grow, people do, right? So that's why I'm such a proponent for professional development always happens on the backside of personal development. So anyway, moving forward tonight, I'm excited about that. If you're in the email, if you're in my Keeping in Touch campaign, where I just send you some random stuff from time to time, you will get a little campaign, some emails and explaining what we're doing and how we're doing it. If you want to jumpstart the whole thing, you can go over to spencercombs.com/eval and just go ahead and schedule your 35-minute evaluation if you are looking to have an annual program that's going to involve a lot of different things, including masterminds and so on, to really change the trajectory of your life. I want you to be like, I got an insurance agency owner right now just on the hunt in massive growth mode, right? Been in the business for a very long time. Right now, the goal is to double. And when we say double, it's not like he's got an insurance agency that's just like this little thing over here. It's, they got 13 employees. They're looking to really do something huge. And so he's got a massive appetite for growth, and he's got a really good management in place to help process and make sure the systems are in place. But we're walking with them side by side, making sure all those things are happening. Maybe that's you, right? Or maybe you got a real estate brokerage. I got another person right now, one of my clients, who has her hand in about 3 big things, and she just in the last 2 months has gotten a massive amount of clarity, and with that clarity has used that now to set things in motion. And I fully anticipate seeing some big things from her and and her team. She's got good people around her too. Or maybe you're like the one client I have right now that's been working with me and has not really been doing a lot with her business. She's been doing a lot of personal stuff, big things, setting herself up to do. She's got a really big vision of what she wants to do down the road. And she has signed up for a whole nother year with me, which isn't inexpensive, by the way. And the business is a part of it. But she asked me, she said, why would you want to keep working with me if I'm not really doing this business as much, right? And I said, because I believe you have a big dream. You have more to you than what you're going to need someone to be in your corner and continuously help drive you forward and move you forward and work with you and be there when the moments are low, when the moments are high, to keep moving forward. I don't know which category you fall into, but that's what all of this stuff that I'm doing is a big part of. I'm sharing this with you because I want you to understand why I do what I do. And this is a good moment for you to step back and just think about this for a second. Why do you do what you do? The business that you're in, why are you in that business? The highest performing YouTube video I have right now was from 5 years ago when an insurance agent, she's at Allstate, she's a producer at an office. I came in and helped her and the entire team. And she did a small testimonial. It's like a 5-minute video that's on my channel. It's the highest active one right now for me. And I believe it's primarily because she starts the video. I gave her like a structure, like some questions to answer, but she tells a really good job of telling it as a story. And she tells her reasoning as to why she was doing insurance. And when you sit and listen to her for a moment and you get the origin story, as it's called, you get that origin story from her, you get a sense for, this is somebody I really would like to trust handling my insurance. Even if it's just my auto and my house, right, P&C stuff. I don't know. But I can tell you, because of her origin story and the way she lays it out in that video, it makes people want to work with her, right? And so I challenge you to ask yourself the question, why are you doing what you do? Why are you in the business you're in right now? What's the origin? Okay. So I'm going to rewind and I'm going to go back and tell you a little bit about my story. Some of you that have been around me a while know this story. Also, if you've read the book, then you've gotten pieces of my story all through this book. Okay. But 2001 was a pivotal year, but I actually had 3 big moments in my life. I've had a lot of big moments, but there's 3 decision points that I can point back to. One of them was when I turned 18. Call it what you want, but I knew that I was being led by the Spirit of the Lord to serve. Now, initially I went into like ministry conversations. As you can tell, I'm not in the ministry today. I have a spiritual walk and I go to church and I'm a member and I do all the things there. We call it ownership, but I firmly believe that I had a call. And what I do today is a part of that call. But fast forward roughly 12 years, 11 years. Let's see, 18, that would have been in 94, right? So what, 7 years later? 7 years later, I ended up with a seizure, crossed 2 lanes of traffic, and hit a telephone pole head on. Now, I didn't know because I actually had driven 2 miles unconsciously. And that stuff, the unconscious part of driving and the whole conversation around seizures and neurology, that kind of thing, really intrigued me because I had no idea. Like I'm in awe, by the way, of what your brain can do. I'm in awe of what your brain can do. Hold on. I was checking because I haven't seen any comments and you guys have been very quiet, but I can see over on my mobile device that you guys are responding, those of you that are here. Thank you. Um, Here, such a pain. All right, there we go. I'm gonna leave it like that so I can see what's going on. All right. So if you guys chat with me, I can see it over on this side. I became super intrigued with neurology and how your brain operates, because how in the world can you drive a car on a 4-lane highway over 2 miles? Like the last point of memory, okay? And maybe that I was completely conscious and my brain has a really cool way of blocking out the traumatic event. I don't know. But when I had the seizure, I crossed 2 lanes of traffic to my left. So I went through traffic on the left-hand side, jumped the curb, hit a telephone pole at estimated 50 miles an hour. My next point of actual consciousness, right? So 2 miles before, it's the last point I remember, turning by McDonald's in Lexington, South Carolina. The next point of memory is me in the ambulance. Now, you guys got to you need to get a vision of this for a second, because this is actually kind of funny. I'm in the back of an ambulance and I am completely restrained. Now, I had no idea what happened. I was looking at the ceiling. Okay. Now, the truth is that when up to this point, I was communicating with people more than likely, because I have done that in other seizure events. But I don't remember anything except until this moment where I'm staring at the ceiling, and you know how when you have head trauma, they put you in really cool like foam and neck restraint stuff to make sure your head doesn't move while they get you to the hospital. Yeah, my ass didn't get any of that cool stuff, because like an idiot, I fought highway patrol and EMS on the side of the highway with an arm that now has 2 plates and 12 screws. My arm was hanging, like bones was sticking out. I'm out there fighting people and resisting like a dumbass. I would never do that kind of thing consciously. Like, I probably would have just passed out if I would have known what the hell would just happen. But they pulled me out of the car and I fought them. And so I didn't get the cool stuff. I got taped to a board. Literally, they put a board out in the grass and taped my ass to it. They went right around my head and taped my head down, taped my arm into basically a makeshift splint. And so I got completely restrained and then put in the back of an ambulance and taken to the hospital. And when I looked up, I thought to myself, well, I thought the same thing you're probably thinking, which is like, what happened, right? And so the EMT literally just, I could barely see him out of this eye. This eye, by the way, got blown up. Word of advice, by the way, sidetrack. If you drive with your hand at the top, like at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, right, with the cross hand like that, it is understood or suggested that you don't drive that way, because if an airbag goes off and your hand is here, your arm becomes a projectile. And so that's what happened. My arm went flying into my face. This side of my face was starting to swell at that point, but I could still see him out on my left side before this whole side swelled up completely. And I said, "What happened?" I remember asking, like, "What happened?" And he said very calmly, he says, "You had a seizure while driving. You had a seizure while driving, and you're on your way to Lexington Medical Center." And I was like processing, because I didn't know what was going on, right? And then I said, "Can you take this stuff off of me?" Because I was starting to get a little, I don't know about you, but if I'm restrained in any kind of way, I struggle with that. And so I was having to mentally work myself down, because they wouldn't let me out of that stuff. He said, "You got head trauma. We don't know what's going on. We need to make sure that you're safe until you get into the ER." And I was like, "Oh man, come on." So I had to work myself down. You know what I mean? So Anyway, I got to the hospital. They did emergency surgery on my left arm. I have 2 plates and 12 screws in that arm now, 37 staples to keep it all together. And I remember getting back to work, and my arm was in a sling. I'd also cracked my patella, which is your kneecap, on my left side also. And so my whole left side was just a little bit funny looking. And I went back to work, and I remember having to, like, I was making phone calls, and that's when I got addicted to having a headset, by the way, because it was a lot easier for me to have a headset and then dial and then hang the phone up, which, by the way, this is when we were using office phones. We had mobile phones in 2001, but they weren't exactly the most. This is back when we still had pagers, you know. But anyway, I remember, because the doctor told me, he said, can you do this? Okay, can you move your hand up on its own? And I didn't have the strength to do that originally. I couldn't, because it was like really hard. I could grab it and push it up, right? But the muscle here that they had to reattach was weak, and so I had to relearn or re-strengthen that. It's only by God's grace that that's all that I really had to deal with. That and my knee, I had to deal with my knee. Even that I was a little bit rebellious about, because I kept taking the knee brace off. I didn't have a cast on, I just had a knee brace, and a funny story about that too, by the way, is because I couldn't drive in the state of South Carolina where this happened, you get your license suspended for 6 months medically. And so I didn't have like bring my lunch with me. I had to go across the street. Now this is, those of you that are in South Carolina that know, in Columbia, South Carolina, and know these roads, I was at Colonial, my office was on Colonial Life, and I was at the Remax office there, and I had to go across the street to what I'm pretty sure is a ghost town now, but it was Dutch Square Mall, across Bush River Road. Bush River Road is a 4-lane road with a pretty good sized median in the middle. You know, it's wide enough for a car to make a turn, so you just figure it's 5 lanes total width. And I had to get across it, and it's a pretty busy road. My silly ass out there with one arm in a sling and a knee immobilizer on, and I remember chanting in my head as I like threw my leg forward and was like running. I couldn't really run. It was like this weird little hitch thing going on across the street. And I remember chanting in my head, roll to the right, roll to the right. And the reason I was saying that is because if I fell, I needed to fall this way and not on all this stuff that just got repaired. So in any event, I tell you this whole story because that particular moment, I realized I was still around for a reason. I don't know what, you do, and I don't know necessarily why you do it, but I coach and I train and I work and I do the things I do because I'm serious about helping other people, fulfilling my part of the promise that I made when I was 18. And in 2001, I firmly believe that I was spared by God's grace to do what I do now. And I don't make it a big deal online, and I don't talk about it online, but there's a lot of hardship conversations I deal with people. I've walked through some pretty deep valleys with people. It's all part of what I do. Now, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. That's not what I do. But somebody wants to defy the odds and get up, dust themselves off, and move themselves forward, I'm your man. The Unshakable framework is there for you to do that. I firmly believe that what I do forced me into figuring out more than just making money. I understand there's mechanics necessary for you to be successful. I understand that there's mindset necessary for you to be able to get there. And I told you there was 3 pivotal moments. The third one was when I was standing on the bank of the Caloosahatchee River and made a decision that my life wasn't going to be like it was. And I walked through the valley of a divorce, bankruptcy, all the issues, cleaned it all up, moved forward, got remarried. And when mechanics and mindset are put together, you have a qualified champion. That's what that's about. We talk about that in the book too. That's how we got there. And then as I learned more and I studied more and I went to more and more classes between Of course, people like Tony Robbins, of course, but also others like Blair Singer, T. Harv Eker, and Dan Kennedy's classes, and there's a bunch of classes that I've gone to and trainings, and even as near as today with Russell Brunson and Akbar and all these others. I have been a sponge with an obsession for one thing, and that's understanding the congruence necessary for someone between mechanics, mindset, and movement. If those three things aren't congruent and fully in an alignment conversation, people are not going to have the level of execution and the level of results that they want. I'm obsessed with that conversation. And a lot of it comes from all the things that I've done in my past. So tonight, what I would like for you to do, those of you that are hearing this, is give it a few minutes and think to yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, how did I get here? And then ask yourself, how could you add your origin story to your business, to your presentations, right? When you go and sit down with a seller or you got an insurance quote or whatever it is you're doing, in some cases it's not appropriate, but sometimes it is, right? Sometimes you need to share with people, this is why I do this business. A lot of real estate agents do it because they didn't have a really good experience buying or selling, and so they want to do it themselves. That being the case, I don't know, but you need to take a few minutes. Why are you doing what you're doing? Can you articulate your origin story, and how does that benefit the person you're talking to? See, I can wholeheartedly tell you that those that are working with me and our program, this Unshakable Edge program, by the way, the one I told you at the top of the hour when we started, the reason why we're building all this stuff out is simple. I'm obsessed with all this, but I also want to make sure, I want you to understand that I'm not just here to help you go make another $2.5 million if you're this guy, or another, $300,000 if you're that person. I see a lot of goals, right? I got one that's working on building essentially a facility or a home type situation for special needs, right? I don't know what you're looking to do, but just know that if I'm working with you, it's not just about the mechanical pieces about this. I understand there's a mindset to it, and you have to have a reason to bother. Movement's got to be in there. Momentum. So, with all that being said, I trust you guys have a good night. Thank you for being here. Share the show. We don't charge you anything for it. So this is an opportunity. You can send them to unshakablegroup.com. It's just that easy. Send them to unshakablegroup.com. I would love to have even more interaction. Thank you. I see Dan commented down here. I'll get to that in a minute, Dan. Thanks. So anyway, you guys have a fantastic evening. Thank you for being here. Celebrate your purpose today, because every one of you have it. If you're breathing right now, you have a reason for being here.